Okay, and we are live. Hi, everybody. Go for it. In five, four, three, two.
Coming up on our Breakfast Club,
Um, I lost my feed here. Sorry. Running of the Bulls.
the wrong way to make a lot of money.
Apple gets denied.
Inside a lettuce factory.
And 50 places, but I'll name two that you should visit before you die.
Oh, let's do all 50. Special 5 hour episode. Uh, and inside the world's first climate indoor city.
Right
All
on.
that plus recommendations coming up next.
Welcome to our Breakfast Club, where new perspectives are just around the corner. I'm Chandra Achberger,
And I'm Kurt Ochberger.
and we hope to bring you some new perspectives and witty insights. Take it away, Kurt.
All right. Well, we're gonna just before we get into the stories today, want to take a second to talk about Reddit. So we Reddit was one of the earliest, I believe, was my recommendation on one of the first handful of episodes. We're now going into episode 19, and I recommended it, and then 19 episodes later, we actually have a subreddit. Um, so if anyone listening who is on Reddit, or if you haven't been on Reddit, I did recommend it. You should check it out. But you can go to reddit.com/r/OBC, and that will get you to the Breakfast Club, our Breakfast Club subreddit. So we're going to be posting our stories that are interesting. I'm going to post, all the stories that I find interesting, not just the ones that I talk about, but we'll have all the ones that we do talk about during the show, and so you can check those out. I post my methodology is I post a bunch of stuff and then I kind of pick which ones I think are most interesting. But I'd like to have other people's feedback on what they think um, is interesting before we talk about them, right? And then we'll definitely use the subreddit as a tool to see what our listeners are interested in, and of course, you can post stories yourself. So you can post stories on there that you'd like us to talk about, and they can get voted up, etc. And we'll use that. So Reddit/r/OBC is our new tool for sort of getting your guys' takes on what's out there and what you'd like us to talk about.
Right on. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you in
All
any
right.
way.
It's World Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we try to talk about stories that cover the whole globe, countries outside the U.S., impact the world as a whole. And so, Chandra, take it away with the first story.
My first story is that's bull, but running of the bulls in Pampinella
Yes.
has 2014 has started. I just looked this up because next year on July 7th you'll be turning 40, and that's what you said. And I just wondered. Also, my brother did running of the bulls and ran into someone from tiny college that he went to in Spain, and as well as I remember my mom being super worried because a American college student had been killed in that running of the bulls, and this was before cell phones and all that good stuff, so there was no way to get in touch with anybody who was traveling overseas. But so I have um I would love to go to the festival.
Oh yeah, the festival looks cool in and of itself, right?
Yeah, the festival looks awesome, and I mean just traveling in general, obviously I'm for it. And going to Spain and traveling all over Spain would be super cool. But this year's Running of the Bulls has started, and this article is from today, and a bunch have. So there's a British man in critical condition after an accident during the Running of the Bulls, and three others, one American, who are also badly not as severe, but pretty badly injured. So I just wanted to hear your take on to have people like laying on the ground, getting trampled on over by the bulls, and yeah, the daily bull run starts at 8 a.m. and usually lasts about 3 to 5 minutes, and it ends at the bull ring, where bulls are. corralled before
Skewered.
before
Kebabbed.
reappearing in the event evening bullfight when they are killed. So,
Yes. And eaten as tasty burgers at steaks. Yeah, no, I've always found it interesting because it does start. So you said that article's from today, and I saw the
mm,
Facebook had a video of people getting run over or whatever. But it always starts on July 7th, which is my birthday. So it's always been sort of this connection of,
mm,
regardless, it always starts on the day of my birthday. And, yeah, it's just interesting. It's one of those things, people do it because it's dangerous, right? That's
mm,
specifically why these guys do it. There's a whole science to it as far as like if you the people that get hurt tend to be the ones, at least I haven't ever read a case where the ones that aren't following the guidelines, they're the common strategies for not getting hit by the bulls. In fact, the story that you read there, this case that happened today, this wasn't the people's fault, but there was a straggling, one or more straggling bulls. So they let them all out as a pack, and so when you know where the bulls are, okay, then now that they've all passed you and you think you're safe, so you kind of just stand around there in the middle of the street. Well, in this particular case, there were straggling bulls behind the main pack. So all the bulls went by and you're like, "Whoo, that was fun. We did it." And then nope, here come a couple more, and that's where the problems came in. So, yeah, no, I've always thought that that's the goal or the plan is next year on my 40th birthday that we'll go. Of course, hopefully I'll be bringing my own doctor with me if
your
Phil,
brothers.
Phil, if you're listening, yeah, I hope all the guys can go. But my brother Philip is a doctor, so as long as he's not the one gored by the bull, we should be okay, right? At least and we all stick together. And but Atlas needs to build up some speed if he hopes to make
No,
it. He's little legs. Abby could be fine; she probably outrun the bulls, but
yeah,
Atlas, he's gonna have to
no, the kids are
he's
not
gonna have to man up.
running in the bulls until they're adults and can choose on their own. That they
Well, they'd have
yeah.
to sort
Atlas
of.
would be like anyway. He's like that looks dangerous. He does
Oh
not
yeah, no, he'll
do
have
anything
nothing to
that
do.
looks He's like that's silly. He would let you know. He'd say, dude, no,
Yes.
that's not football. No, they get hit. I'm not
And
doing
then, of
that.
course, the whole irony of living in the Longhorn, not even Longhorn State, but the Longhorn City,
I
and going to another country thousands of miles away
Yeah, I guess there's a mini one here in Austin.
okay, so I can practice. That's what I really need to do. I
Yeah,
also
but
need
they
to.
have like the long horns. I mean, it's like a sweeping, if they actually do run, if you did a running of the Longhorns, that would be,
Some of the ones we've seen here in town
yeah,
have horns that, yeah, like they wouldn't even, like two of them wouldn't even fit down the street,
no,
like tipped it.
not those streets. And so if you want to see the longest Longhorns I've seen, there's right next to the spot parking lot, right next to the airport here in Austin, there is this one longhorn that literally I don't even know. It would be
Massive.
fun to measure,
Yeah,
but it's massive. So
yeah, it's got to be like over 6 feet at least,
yeah,
6, 7 feet of horn span, if that's a
yes.
thing.
So it's pretty cool. So go for it. Go for your first story.
All right. So my first story comes from it's a really great article. We'll put the link in the show notes, of course, and it's a really it's a longer article, but it's very interesting. By Ben Kuchera on Polygon. It's titled "How Does a Terrible Movie Make $300 million in 3 days?" So they're talking about the new Transformers movie, Transformers: Age of Extinction,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't use numbers anymore with our movies,
Yeah,
and
because it's bad for marketing. So
uh
go for it. Go ahead.
apparently didn't hurt this. I don't think anything could have hurt this. So it's funny, right? So the story is, and of course, in my nerd space, right, of all the circles I run in online, we Transformers. Yeah, grew up with them, love them, staple of my childhood experience. And I've seen the other three, right,
Mm-hmm.
Transformer movies, um, and this one, not, the first one was pretty good, but they've gotten worse and worse. It seems like to me, and that seems to be the general consensus. And then this one is, I guess, just horrible as far as ratings. Like people, okay, critics, but then also just like people, friends on Facebook that have gone and seen it, and like, oh my god, like, waste of money and time that you'll never get
Mm-hmm.
back in your life. Uh, all that being said, the movie made
Wow.
$300 million in the first 3 days. Okay, and so you're saying, well, Kurt, I thought this was World Wednesday. How does this apply this American movie? Well, it made that money mostly outside of the United States.
Hmm.
It did I want to say like 100 million in the U.S. and then the other 200 million outside. And again, that's in the first 3 days. Um, Included in that is over 90 million that it did in China, which is a record. So the most popular movie ever in China, well, the most money making movie in China ever is Transformers: Age of Extinction. It's not even out at the time of this article, and this article is okay, June 30th, so it's about a week, over a week old. It wasn't even out so that 300 million does not include any of Europe and any of Latin America. So it didn't debut in those 3 days in those, not, I was gonna say countries, continents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's still got a lot more to go. And like I said, so you say, well, how is this a long article? I mean, isn't that basically the story? It's just very fascinating. They go into the whole, basically, the blockbuster industry in the world today. I mean, coming out of the U.S., but blockbuster movies in the United States are now made for worldwide audiences, and in particular for China. Um, they just the appetite they have there for
Mm-hmm.
blockbusters and like the action smash 'em up movies is just phenomenal and growing every day. And studios can't turn their back on $90 million in 3 days, right? It's going to make way more than that
Mm-hmm.
in China, and you can't say no, right? The studios aren't going to say no to hundreds of millions of dollars. And so that obviously, as we can already see by this one example in front of us, is going to become a problem for the U.S. audiences who are used to having our films made for us, right? Especially these big blockbusters. Um, and so they filmed parts of Age of Extinction in China. They added a prominent Chinese actor to the cast. I mean,
Wow.
they're
Yeah.
building these, they're architecting these movies for China. Iron Man 3 had a completely different, it had
It w
a different cut. Like they literally did a director's cut for
Interesting.
China. And of course, the
Well,
whole
that's
thing about
smart. That's a smart thing to do, right?
apparently,
Yeah.
right?
I
Yeah, it's like, well, let's
yeah.
see. If we spend another week cutting this and tweaking it a little bit for China, we'll make an extra $100 million.
Well, not another week. I mean, it takes a lot more effort than
Oh,
that.
I could recut Iron Man 3 in a week. Um, and of course, the big thing about Iron Man 3, if you remember, the main, well, not the main, but the bad guy was the Mandarin, right? But they totally, that's a whole nother discussion on how that kind of went south as far as the geeks are concerned. But that there's just more and more examples. Pacific Rim that came out, right? The big robots versus monsters movie. Um, Also tailored in some ways that they outline in the article to Chinese audiences. And they love it. And of course, these are not, when we talk about these worldwide theater going audiences, most likely English is not their first language. It may not be, they may not speak any English at all or very limited English. So, really, like doing a Jane Austen or some sort of speaky movie where it's all about deep dialogue and engaging conversations, it's not, when given a choice of that or big robots smash other big robots, or fill in the blank what they smash, uh, you know you can go to Transformers. Like I could watch Transformers with the sound off, or at least with the speaking off, and pretty much grab the gist of it, right? So that helps as well. They're building the kind of movies that you can go and watch, and it doesn't really matter if you catch a lick of if you caught the subtitles or if there were no subtitles and you just didn't understand the language. They still translate. So this is one of these other trends I see that's just it's not gonna go down, right? No studio who's making big blockbusters is gonna decide, I'm not going to cater to these outside audiences that could bring in,
Well, and the
potentially a
trickle down
billion
on that,
dollars.
there's a trickle down on that as well. I mean, I listen to a lot of entrepreneurial and getting started and all these type of podcasts, and I remember listening to an author, she quit her job and just started writing fiction, and she said she wrote fiction because that it's timeless, right? Her grandkids can benefit
Yeah,
from this. But her main strategy, her marketing strategy was like, okay, India has a huge middle class, and China has this huge middle class um, growing. I mean, it's exponentially growing who just want new materials to read and want or have a thirst for knowledge, right? And so she writes for these audiences, even though she's in England and that's all she knows is English and lives in England and writes in English. However, she realizes that it's where the money is, right? I mean, if you can't find in these saturated markets of the United States and Western Europe, then find somewhere where people want to just want more, right?
yeah, they're hungry for your
Yes,
product,
yes.
right? They're begging you, they're throwing their wallets at you, right? And to not serve them just doesn't make. And again, we're focusing on China, because the article gave me facts about what was going on in China,
Mm,
but this is not limited at all to China or even Asia. I mean, this is the world, Latin America, Europe, all over the place. They are eating up. Captain America was, I think, renamed. So Captain America, I know at least in Europe and maybe probably around the rest of the world, was called the First Avenger, and they didn't. It wasn't called. So they weren't asking Chinese people to go to a movie that was called Captain America.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
things like that. So it doesn't impact like the movie's a movie. Well, I was gonna say it doesn't impact us. I guess some in the fanboy culture would say that it is impacting us because it's lessening, it's giving us garbage movies, or they would, in their opinions, garbage movies. The whole thing, the Transformers that I know the last couple too have been slammed with, and I think this one is sort of the same. The horrible, the racial stereotypes, and ethnic stereotypes that
Mm,
they give the robots, like the Jamaican one,
yeah.
and the ones that have, other countries don't care about that. Like, we are hypersensitive to political correctness here, and others aren't. Of course, now if you start doing, maybe Chinese stereotypes, and I think you're going to see less of that, which frankly is perfectly okay, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it is going to change. It's going to change movies and how movies are made. It is changing. It has changed the way movies are made, and
Well,
so
as
we're
we
going to have to
become
deal
a
with it,
smaller
right?
small
That's
I
not a
mean,
bad thing
yeah, I mean,
necessarily.
as more and more information just exchanges borders, it just makes a bigger, I mean, it just widens the way we view the world, and I mean, we're not just this little island, right? So
Yeah.
it just changes the way the information is going to be put out there. And especially, I mean, if you want to, money talks, right? Like, you want to make $300 million. All right. So change a couple of things around.
Yep.
So, yeah, totally awesome. Well, not awesome that a terrible movie was made, but
Yeah, and I should say, I mean, I haven't seen it,
yeah.
so I am stating empirical evidence that I've gleaned from social networks and my friends on those social networks, and many articles that I saw, including a couple that I read, end to end. So, and read. I suggest, everybody go, if you have time or you're interested in this topic, go read the long article. It's Ben and another gentleman, Chris, on the Polygon, sort of do a little debate, or they do a back and forth. I don't usually debate because I think they both agree the movie is terrible, but they talk a lot about, and Michael Bay, and how everybody, sort of saying, oh, it's all Michael Bay's fault, but that's the sort of the point, is it's really not, right? Yeah, he's the director, but he's not the studio chief,
Yeah.
right? The director can only do so much, and yeah, I guess he could put his foot down or like storm out or something, but he's not. Come on,
Well, and
right? The
that's the
guy's trying
thing.
to make a
And so that
living, and he made the. If anybody wants to debate Michael Bay, I mean, my argument would start with The Rock and Armageddon, and then I would drop the mic and
and walk away. Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. I love The Rock.
Yeah.
I feel like gutting you, boy. I love that movie. I love that
Yeah.
movie. Um, but there's also something to be said about, I mean, touching on that, on the actual the studios and the same with writing and publishing. I mean, that's why you see more and more people doing things where they're just really independently doing them because they want
Yeah.
complete creative control, right? And we have the
Kickstarter. Yeah.
resources. You have, you can get funded by crowdfunding and just a slew of other things. I mean, Macklemore, right? That's why they just did not want to give up creative control. I mean, on every level, you can do that, and people are
Yeah.
going in that direction.
That's a great point because some of the pushback from like Zach Braff and some of these, I guess, celebrities going on to Kickstarter to fund their movies is, well, Zach Braff's, he's got money.
Yeah, that
these are
that
rich
argument drives
guys.
me crazy. Go
Yeah, but
ahead.
guess what? When Zach Braff goes to the studio chief to make a movie,
Yeah.
even though Zach Braff may have money, he still has to, oh, you know what? Change this character to be Chinese or Indian. And also, oh, don't say that line because that
Yes.
might offend. So,
And not even on the PC part, but like as far as who, just the entire tone of whatever it is you're putting out there needs to change, right? I
yep,
mean, and you lose creative control. I mean, you're working for someone at that point. You're not creating whatever it is your vision is. And that, I mean, what the reason I will never be like a portfolio, not a portfolio, but a portrait photographer, right? I mean, because there's something to be you are for hire at that point. And even if you are rich, I mean, why would you, I mean, you
yeah,
can't
you want to make,
spend, why would you,
they're artists, right? They want to
yeah,
make
you
what
want to
they,
make,
yeah,
and we need to support that. As far as I remember hearing this argument, and I was just like, well, why should he spend half of his gross income to put out a, or like not income, but like his gross worth, to put out a movie, and then he goes broke and he's putting, yeah, I think it's a poor business argument to be like, oh, just, you're rich, why would you do a Kickstarter, just pay for it yourself. And it's the reason why companies go under, and all of these things, nonprofits go under, because people don't understand how money works.
yeah. And if Transformers: Age of Extinction had been a Kickstarter project, then he would have made the movie. You have to then at that point, address your fans,
Yes.
right? You have to. The Veronica Mars Kickstarter, that like people who people who kickstarted it loved it. Like they got the movie that they wanted. And other people, hearing other people who aren't exactly Veronica Mars fans or didn't kickstart it, were like, the movie wasn't bad, but I didn't really care, whatever. And that's fine, right? It wasn't made for you, right? It
Hmm.
was kickstarted, and they tailored it to the people who gave money to get the movie that they wanted. So yeah, that's another sort of wave to come. The studios will make big blockbuster movies for the whole world. And that's great.
Yeah.
See them or don't. And if and at the same time, individuals will be making movies for sort of niche groups, and they'll get the movies that they want. So,
Yeah.
and they can both exist simultaneously, right?
So while we're on, I'm gonna go into my second story. While we're on China, Apple suffers Siri patent case defeat in China. So apparently, Apple failed in its attempt to get Chinese company voice recognition patent ruled invalid. So a China, there's a company in China who basically did invent Siri before Apple
Sure.
implemented Siri. I mean,
Everybody invents stuff before Apple does. That's just the way it goes.
right,
Apple just does it better or shinier, I guess.
exactly, but China is saying, so the company is called Zhen, Zhizhen patent. Unfortunately, we're not aware. Apple is saying they were not aware of the previous patent from this Chinese maker, basically, of Siri before they introduced Siri. And so this company is suing Apple for patent infringement, essentially. And they they are losing in the Chinese courts because it was obviously implemented and invented before Apple, the evil empire of Apple.
Well, yeah, this whole story reeks with irony, right? Like
Yes, it does.
China,
And
the
that's
land of knockoffs, says that Apple, who generally copies most of their technologies or forms, and I will give it they do it better or they market it better at least, however you want to couch that argument. But yeah, like who who win like or how do we win? Who are we rooting for in this? I guess is what I'm trying to say, right?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that it matters. It's only going to pertain to China anyway, right? However, Apple, banning if China were to do something like, ban Apple products from China, it would certainly, of course, they'd still be made there in the height of irony, but you couldn't buy one. Yeah, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, it would be interesting. And I thought the ironic part would be the other way. Like, what if this company introduced it before, after Apple had introduced it? And like, what would Apple be doing to this company to try and to prove that they infringed on copyright, right? As far as suing them
Yeah.
and how the tables would be turned. So it was just an interesting little,
Yeah, the whole patent quagmire, right?
yes.
System and of course, and even like the U.S. patent system is straight up broken. Uh, but
Well,
how
it's
do
not
you
designed for
technology?
technology,
Most
right?
people
This
that
this
don't
type our where we are right now.
cannot patent round corners on a square. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
it's
just no,
yes.
no, that's not allowed.
Thank you.
I'm president for a day. I'm revoking your patent on round corners. It's just
Yes.
not okay. Um, or sending an email. No, sorry, you don't get to patent email. It's just craziness. You start talking podcasting, right?
Hmm.
There's the internet troll, the patent troll company out there that's suing. Well, right now they're suing Adam Carolla because he's the most successful podcaster at the moment, but basically saying that they own podcasting,
Hmm.
and if they win against Adam Carolla, then they could eventually work their way down the chain and get to us and be like, okay, time for you to pay. You got to pay us, or we will
It's
take you to court.
so anti what the internet is, the World Wide Web, right? World Wide Web. It's not, yeah.
And I mean, these guys are pretty much a patent troll company. They're a company that doesn't do anything. For those who may or may not know what I'm talking about, or the lingo, a patent troll company is basically the company only exists on paper and they own patents, right? So they buy up patents from people or companies and just own them. And then then the only way they make money is charging other companies to use those patents. And that's it. That's their business model. That's how they
Mm.
exist. And that's in particular what I don't, that's the crux of the broken system. I mean, obviously, my grandfather, 89 patents. I'm living in a house that benefited from patent money, so I know from which I speak. But that was like him sitting down on a drawing board and designing the
Mm.
first diesel engine to ever go into a semi truck. Like, okay, that's a thing. And those patents expired a long time ago and whatever. But his company, he was working for his company, designing a physical thing, and that stayed within the company. That and drug patents and stuff. Like you to some degree, you have to incentivize companies to create some of these things to some degree for a short period of time, right? And
Hmm.
get into the drug thing as well. But they're at least those drug companies, like them or not, are investing research dollars and paying research scientists to create things that never existed
Yeah.
before. I'm okay with that, right? And I'm okay with kicking them a little something to ensure that keeps happening, right? Because
Hmm.
it's a fact of life we're in. But a company that just exists to just buy. Like, oh no, we don't do anything. We just bought the digital goods from over here and sold the digital goods over here, and I don't know. But we're not going to solve that today. But it's interesting.
No, it's
Sure,
just
there'll be
interesting
other
to talk
stories
about, right?
about it.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. All
Mhm.
right. So my next story is not moving too far afield from China. We're going to jump over the strait there to Japan. And in Japan, idle electronics factories find new life in farming. So, I'm checking my feeds for stories that we can use for World Wednesday on the show. And this one, of course, jumped out at me because of the whole farming. I think we've talked about before how we have a little aquaponics setup, which is like hydroponics, basically growing without soil, which is exactly what these guys are doing in the factories. These guys happens to be Fujitsu. So in particular, it's the Fujitsu company. Um, and there's been a so Fujitsu, if you don't know, they do hard drives, but they used to do like floppy disks. Like almost all the floppy
Ooh, the
disks I have
floppy disk.
I ever bought, I believe, thinking back, were Fujitsu. Like that was the brand that you got of the floppies, and not so much with the floppy disk buying by the peoples these days. So they've got these giant factories now. I guess, and I mean, floppies is like 20 years ago, but I
Yeah.
guess these factories they just haven't found. I mean, they make hard drives, but they already had hard drive factories, right? And as hard drive technology changes, the really the form factor doesn't and things, so you can basically just build better hard drives in the same factory. But
Mm.
floppies aren't, I guess, not the same tooling and things. In any event, they have a bunch of these factories, and it's not just Fujitsu, although that's who the story is mostly about. And they said, quote, last day the plant manager told Mr. Miyabi to prepare for a career change. Quote, starting tomorrow, you are going to make lettuce, he recalls being told. And so they have a great picture here. Now these guys, this was okay. So I said, I've been saying hard drives and floppy drives. This guy, Haruasu Miyabi, was a computer chip. He oversaw a computer chip production line at Fujitsu. Why that's important is that to make computer chips, you have to have an absolute like clean room, right? So it's all sealed, and you wear the whole. They got pictures of them here, and the masks and the gear to handle microchips and highly sensitive electronics. Well, guess what? You retool it for agriculture, and they're wearing the same suits, and they're in the same clean rooms that are complete sterile, dust-free environment. Um, and they're growing just rack upon rack of lettuce in this case,
Hmm.
which of course isn't terribly surprising if you know anything about hydroponics or aquaponics, because one of the first things you read about is when you're saying like, what kind of stuff can I grow in this thing that I've just built in my backyard? And they always leafy greens, leafy greens,
Always
leafy
leafy
greens. Like
greens.
it's
Yeah.
the thing that just grows the best in a hydroponic or an aquaponic setup. And so they're growing it, and they sell it. So it's just all the but now we can tangentially go into all the benefits of aquaponics or hydroponics. Um, especially stuff grown in a factory like in downtown Tokyo, right? Or in the area of Tokyo, not necessarily downtown. So basically, it's can be shipped, transported. They should say even to the restaurants and grocery stores, same day. They can literally pick it, boom, and have it out. So you're getting the absolute freshest produce out there. There are other spinach, strawberries, some other. This is not limited to just Fujitsu. There are a number of factories. I think they said 300, and so yeah, in the past 3 years, the number of such factories has quadrupled to more than 380. So 380 government factories that were just sitting there empty, not doing nothing, that are now growing various produce.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
and
I mean,
yeah,
yeah. Need to feed people, right? So,
right. Local people, like right
yeah.
there. Of course, they're growing so much. They're growing, just to give you an idea, 35. Right now, they're growing. They say they're starting modestly with a production of 3,500 heads of lettuce a day from this one factory, Mr. Miyabi again. Which is, if you multiply by, well, at least if you multiply by 300, that's like over a million heads of lettuce from that factory, worth about $4 million, they say. And yeah, so, and of course, them being, I just love the Japanese stint on it, right? Of if we're going to do something, we're going to just like do it the absolute right way and apply technology and structure and everything. So they're using all kinds of technology. Um, like moisture and temperature control settings and just all this technology. They, they're all they were all technology workers. And frankly, you can make their they're still technology workers.
Mm.
It's just that instead of producing a chip at the end of the day, they're producing something you can eat.
Yep.
And so ways to make it, the most flavorful and vitamin rich, and like all the ways you can tinker with growing produce, they're trying because that's what maybe stereotypical, but that's what they
Yeah.
like to do, right?
Yeah.
And then the very last quote, the owner of the plant said, "Plants don't complain; they're so obedient and good." I think that just sort of wraps up. Oh, he used to make massage chairs. Massage chairs are difficult. One person may say it feels good, while another
Mm.
person may say it's complete opposite. So you can't please everyone. And of
Never
course
thought of that with the
yep,
massage chair, right? I mean, because that's like so
yeah,
individualized, right?
yep. Plants,
Interesting.
not so much. They just do what they're told. They're so obedient and good. And I thought that was a great way to
That's
end the.
awesome.
That was this article came from Eric Fanner from the Wall Street Journal.
Very awesome. Uh, yeah, so traveling along, I found I like to stumble upon basically places to travel in your lifetime and see how many I've actually been to. And since I haven't been out of our general northern northern hemisphere, northern and western hemisphere, we I just saw a couple here that are super cool and I've not thought of. And Morocco looks super cool, and of course, Italy and India, and then Cuba, which is still here in our hemisphere, but I haven't been there yet, and I would really, really like to go there. If anybody's traveled there and has some pictures they would love to share, I'd love to see them. Or
Yeah.
any of these places. I enjoy seeing travel pictures and what people take out of things. Beijing, China, as we were just talking about.
A lot of
Going,
people.
yeah,
A lot of people do
a
that.
lot of people, but like cool architecture. I guess that's with a lot of these places. It's just
Yeah.
like this really cool. And Greece, I've always wanted to go to Greece, which Athens, Greece, and just seeing the ancientness of it. Um, Myanmar, which I think I'm not pronouncing. I think it's pronounced
Yeah.
Myanmar,
Myanmar. Yeah.
and
Used to be Burma.
yeah, and that looks beautiful. I have a like one picture when my brother went through there of standing on top of a rooftop, and just beautiful, beautiful places. So I need to get some stamps in my passport. As I scroll down this list, I'm like, I've been to one, and that's New York City, because
Nobody.
I was born there.
Dominican Republic wasn't on the list there. Not
No,
a single.
no, Costco, Peru, which I kind of don't really want to go to, but
Talked about Costco before. We're not climbing the dang mountain to see the
no, yeah, yeah.
broken up bricks of a former
Oh,
city.
I'm sorry, I didn't scroll down enough on this. I've been to San Fran, California, which I do like, but it's very similar to New York, just with a
Yeah.
West Coast
It's like the
attitude.
mirror, right? Kind
But
of stuff. It's
Budapest, Hungary, I've wanted to go there. In Prague, I've
yeah.
heard is absolutely
Lately,
beautiful.
and it was something I heard somewhere, but Istanbul I think would be really
Yes,
cool
it's
to go to.
I've always wanted to go there too.
Yeah.
Thailand. I basically all these places I want to go to.
Great.
Yeah.
Way to narrow it down.
Croatia, which is somewhere I've not thought of wanting to go to, but I've heard we just had a friend travel there with their two young children and um, family just for like summer vacation. They said it was like the third time they've gone and they absolutely love it. And yeah, it looks beautiful. Looks like a beautiful place, but I don't know much about it. So,
Okay. Well, my last story is a place we could go. Dubai is building the world's first temperature controlled city. Uh,
nice.
and the sub headline is "Visit Mall of the World and Never Step Outside." So this is Cassandra Shaw from The Verge. Dubai, that's like their thing these days, right? Is biggest, tallest, fastest,
Crazy
whatever.
islands like the
Yeah,
World
it's. I
Island
think I
and
just we've talked about Dubai before. I think I described it as the Vegas of the world, right? I think it was a Hong Kong, but Dubai is kind of like that as well, right? They're just like trying to. like Vegas has like the Eiffel Tower and the pyramids, and I just envision Dubai as sort of the same kind of deal. Like it is literally out in the middle of the desert, and they're like, oh, let's build a city here, and they have like the tallest building, and now their next plan is this Mall of the World, I guess to outdo Mall of America. Um, it's going to be the first temperature controlled city on the planet, in that the entire thing will be inside. It's going to be a mall, of course, an indoor family theme park, and a network of temperature controlled openable promenades, um, to be the world's largest. It's a 4.35-mile expanse of covered walkways, so like 4 miles of walkways, that will allow week-long stays without the need for cars or exposure to Dubai's harsh desert climate, which averages 104 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. So, yeah, basically building mile upon mile of just indoor thing. 3 million square foot wellness district, theaters modeled after famous cultural landmarks like the West End and Broadway. There will be 100 hotels and service apartments
Oh,
built on the 48 million square foot premises in order to accommodate the expected 180 million visitors annually.
wow.
Yeah. We now know like at least one person, one family that's been to Dubai, but
We know actually from Washington when we lived in Squim, a family that went to school with Abby. They moved there.
okay.
They were just, I mean, they're total like
Yeah.
middle
I,
Amer not middle America, West Coast, total normal, but the opportunity there is really, really great.
yes. So yeah, just yeah, it's just the mall of the world might seem like an outlandish capitalistic fantasy, but Dubai is no stranger to extravagance. Among other things, the city is famous for the world's tallest building and throwing a record-breaking fireworks display. So apparently, there's a lot going on there. It's a happening place, and I just think that's interesting for living in a country that prides itself or likes to pride itself on bestest, tallest, biggest ball of twine, whatever it is, we've got the biggest. And, just to see that that's not a U.S., that desire, at least, to do those sort of things is not monopolized by the United States. I think it's just a human, I feel like it's a human trait in any culture to be like, we've got the biggest
Biggest.
whatever it is, or the
Yeah, and it's
greatest, or the most things.
yeah, I mean, and it goes for everything, right? Like wherever you live personally, like your family is the best family. I think it's something that is naturally, I think it's you need it so that you can like hold on to what you have in your life, right? So,
Well, and just how we apply it to everything. Like,
yeah.
okay, I get like tallest building. That makes sense because it's literally like building something up to the sky, or since the dawn of time, right? There were guys like, well, we're going to build an even bigger pyramid, and then, oh, well, we're going to build a bigger one and put a thing on
Yeah, no,
top to
that's
make it
human
3 feet
nature, and that's
taller.
why, yeah, that's
Mankind
yes.
has always tried to do that, and when
We're
we
just
start doing
competitive.
yeah, moon
That's
colonies or something. It'll be the biggest that. But even the thing like, oh wow, I have a pretty big ball of twine, but who has the biggest ball of
I mean,
twine?
Guinness World Book of Records,
It
period.
exists solely
Like
for
that's
that
just
thing.
like yeah.
Yes.
And people are constantly and will always want or need to break something, right? So or break a
Can
record, right?
can eat the most hot dogs. Isn't
Yeah,
that
well, I'm going so I'll switch to my I guess
recommendations?
my recommendations. I'm going to a conference this weekend. And it's called the World Domination Summit, and people come from all over the world. And it starts off with a. It always starts off. At least last year, it started off with a Guinness World Record breaking of how many people connected floating in the whatever river runs through Portland. What river runs through Portland? Do you know?
Portland River.
Columbia, the Columbian River.
Well, the
Yes.
Columbia comes down from Washington. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's the Columbia. But so they had that, and then this one starts off with the Great Namaste. So they want the most people doing a yoga thing as possible. But it is that idea of wanting to, I wasn't even going to really mention it, but that idea of human nature of wanting to break things. And I will meet people from all around the world with same common goal of wanting to make the world a better place. And yeah, I hope to have a good time there. And then I'll run into my second, since we are on Reddit now. I just found a great little, since I don't like the way Reddit looks all that much. And Kurt mentioned that I can skin it up somehow because I know CSS and what have you. So I just found a Chrome app, the Google app that's called Gorgify, and it's an alternate CSS for Hacker News with a focus on typography and readability. And it looks like I can very quickly do some really cool stuff, and it's just an extension that you put in. So those are my two.
Cool. All right. So my first recommendation is an app called Fishbrain. So I don't fish. I'm not a fisherman. I have fished
I like to
before.
fish.
Yeah. So then this is the app for you. Nonetheless, once I saw this and started reading what it was about, I just think it's awesome. I think the idea of it is awesome. Not that I would ever download or use it for fishing, but what Fishbrain does, it's basically like crowdsourced knowledge about best places to fish, best times to fish in those places, best bait or
Awesome.
lures to use in those places from all the users sort of crowdsourced together so that you can have, if you have this app on your phone or device or whatever, you can look up, if you're in a new place or even if you're at home, local fishing spots that are good, and that not just that are good, but are good right now. And that, so in and of itself, that would be useful. And then once you get there, like what bait you should use to catch what kind of fish or what kind of fish people have caught there. And it's just all this, it's this idea of crowdsourced knowledge bundled into an app. And in this case, yes, it's fishing. And for my fishing minded relatives and friends, why wouldn't you have this app, right? It's
Well, I
free.
think it would be just the nature of fishermen. I know it because I come from a long line of people who really, really enjoy to fish, like all Worsham's fish. Like it's just what we do. But as an enjoyable pastime. But people kind of want to avoid other people knowing where their fish spots are. So I can see like people who are really enjoy fishing and love the serenity of it and finding a good spot to like point people in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I guess I can see your point. They have 430,000
That's
registered
awesome.
users
That's awesome.
and
No, I love the idea of it. I love it.
some 130,000 logged catches with the app so far. I think where you would get this is where I think you're right about like local fishing places.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't necessarily put the best places around me that I can drive to fish. But if I'm traveling and I go up to Alaska and I find a good place, I'm going to log that, right?
Yeah.
Because what do I care? I'm coming back. So I'll bet you that I think you're right, but I think also I don't know, and then but I think there are a lot of people that don't care or that want to share, and it only takes a couple, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Oh no, I totally
it
think
only takes the
it's
one guy,
awesome.
and I'm sure the other people would think he's the jerk or whatever, but he's the local that goes, oh,
This is the
that,
best fishing hole
yeah,
ever. Well, it's funny because we were walking back. We had a play date yesterday. Went down to the pool, and we have ponds all around our community. And I saw some like teenage, older teenage boys, probably like 18, 19 years old, and there were two walking by, and they didn't live in our community. I've never seen them before, and what have you. And then there was one guy who had just pulled a bass right out of the lake, and it was the biggest one I've ever seen out of our little ponds. And I asked him, I was like, oh, what is that? And I thought it was a bass, but I wasn't sure. And he's like, yeah, I've caught like 30 fish out of this little pond. And I was like, I've only seen one other person pull something out of this pond, but I was like, the pond that's right around the road about half a mile half a mile down. He's like, really? I said, yeah, if I saw somebody catch something big over there. So it was like this interaction that was just yesterday. I didn't even talk to you about it, which is pretty funny that
yep.
that happened. And it was just, I would have recommended him that little app. I wonder if there's any places here in Texas that are on
See?
there.
I can download it, and I have no qualms about spoiling the best fishing spots for people, it being
Yeah,
that
because you
I
don't
don't
go to
fish
them.
or eat fish. So yeah, I think, or some local brings their brother, right? Oh, hey, you're visiting. I'm going to take you out to
Yeah.
this really great spot, and the brother has it on there. Anyway, obviously this is gaining traction. They just
Cool.
got the reason I found the article is because they just got $2.4 million in a Series A funding. So obviously there's money to be made. They have like a premium. It's a free app, Android and iOS. Fish Brain, all one word. Um, but obviously, they have a premium version, which I guess gets you more specific information or
Mm.
more updated information, or they're looking to build in gamification, like leaderboards and
Cool.
challenges and intelligent recommendations, whatever that means. So, Fishbrain. And then my last recommendation is CartoDB. So CartoDB, all one word. And it's an open source tool for telling stories with interactive maps. Basically, what this lets you do is, if you're doing a presentation or even just like a slideshow, like a vacation slideshow with so you go on vacation, you take a bunch of pictures, right? Like we all do, and you come back and you want to share those pictures. What you could use this Cardo DB tool. I totally think of the Indiana Jones movie where they have the little plane flying on a
Oh
map,
yeah,
like where he's
that's
going to.
I've been wanting to do that on an about me page
Yes,
forever.
this
I just haven't found the right. Yeah,
So this
good point.
tool, and there's a video. I'll post the link, of course. But there's a little video you can watch that shows an example of how you do it. You have to type. It's not typing code. I mean, it's in a code window, but you're not programming. You have to type in like your captions, everything. So maybe it's just the fact that they could probably do a better editing window. That maybe is a little more user friendly, but it makes sense to me anyway. But anyway, yeah, it lets you move around a map of the world, zoom in, zoom out, and do things. But then as you're doing that, almost like slides, right? So slide one is us looking at the whole world, and you have a caption like Kurt's trip 2014, and then okay, my first photo is New York airport or whatever. So then I zoom, I go to the next slide, slide two, and slide two is going to be zooming into
Yes,
LaGuardia
perfect.
and a picture of me at the Sbarro or whatever. And you get the idea, right? And then slide three is, oh, we landed in Heathrow or whatever.
Your airport go to Sabaro.
Yes, yeah. So that's kind of cool. I mean, I think it's one
No,
of those
that's
things that
awesome, and I'm
use or
gonna
not, but
get on it as soon as we get off this, so I can make our about me page the way I've wanted to.
yeah, if you have a series of, obviously you have to have pictures or facts or something from around. It doesn't have to be around the world. Like you could jump between Austin, all the places I've eaten at Austin, and the food I've taken pictures of, and it would because you can zoom all the way down to the city level, right? So you could jump around Austin and like, oh, we went over here and this was great, and we went to this bar, a pub crawl, right? And you could, I think this would be you would just go down the street and you could like show it going down the map or something anyway. So for our creative listeners out there and who travel around, even if it's traveling within their own city around, that would be kind of cool. Check it out. So I'll put a link in, but it's CartoDB.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Uh, I just got word that the echo is really bad on the show, so I have no idea. I think it's my. I think it's so. But so thanks for joining us, and I will see if we still have some serious technical issues, and uh, check out some of these tools. Can't wait to do that. I'm also going to work on segmenting the show so that people can grab what they want and see how that works, especially on YouTube and the video parts of it, because then we know people can't sit down and watch an hour of something. But thank you so much for joining us. Come on over to our Reddit. OBC is the Reddit page, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Kurt can do that, or come on over to ourbreakfast.club, and we would love to hear from you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Have an awesome day.